Mr. Chauhan, if you just could hold that thought, I'm going to go live across to the Bombay Stock Exchange at this point. Ashishkumar Chauhan needs no introduction, MD and CEO of BSE, joining us live from BSE. Ashish, I'm sure it has been a struggle to get you here. You have a very, very busy evening. Thank you so much for taking our time. We saw that illustrious ringing of the gong, very, very enthusiastic participation. Devin Choksi was just talking to us and said the hall is jam-packed. What's the mood like at the nation's oldest exchange?
No, it's as he said, the hall was jam-packed, and this after a long time we have seen this kind of participation because of the fact that people are more hopeful and many more people came this. So I would also like to wish your viewers a very happy Diwali and prosperous New Year in summer 2072.
Fair enough. Ashish, let's talk about what's probably in store in this new year, because we've seen a whole host of measures that have actually taken place from the BSE in the last 1 year itself for somewhat 2072. Run us as to what are some of the plans that the BSE is probably going to be unfolding in the next couple of quarters?
For us, basically, if India has to grow at that rate of 8-9%, India has to focus more on investments, and so we are working more on investments. And we also have to reduce the speculation. I mean, India is today the second most speculative nation in the world. If you measure derivatives to equity ratio, Korea is the largest in the. They have around 33 rupees or dollars of derivatives trading vis-a-vis 1. India is 14, and even US, who we learn from, is around 2.5. So effectively, we have become hugely speculative, and our attempt will be to bring more people into the market rather than trying to work with only a small number of that 2-3 crore people who invest in stock markets, taking them to derivatives, taking them out. Last 20 years we have not added more investors despite all the automation and other things. Now we are working on getting more investors so that India in fact is able to invest rather than speculate and able to get more and more returns for the funds it actually invests. And that's where I think the world trend is, and we need to also focus more on investments, and that's what BSE's efforts would be.
Mr. Chauhan, if I could drive that point forward, and very rightly said, because retail money has started coming back into this market, though you do rightly say that it might have been concentrated in some way. How do we increase participation? What kind of steps are needed to increase wider participation into equities as a wealth creation asset for many more retail investors?
It's not only about equities. The stock markets as a vehicle for channelizing savings of the economy into productive capital, because people in India, we save a lot of money. 30% of our GDP it comes to around almost $650 billion a year. Over 5 years, we'll be saving more than $3.5 trillion. And even if we are able to get half of that into the stock markets or into the markets, not only in equities but also in debt, government bonds, corporate bonds, equities, debentures and so on and so forth, we would have actually satisfied most of the need of Indian markets. Last almost 5 years, we have been raising $10 to $15 billion using the markets. We need to be raising $150 billion for us to grow at the pace at which we need to grow. And that's where basically what we have requested the government is to, one, remove STT, bring capital gains tax on at least up to 3 years. If people don't invest, then bring capital gain tax instead of that 1 year framework. Also have some sort of a rationalization in STT. Today, STT is structured in a way that there is a huge amount of STT on delivery-based transactions, which are basically investments, and very little on options, literally a fraction. And that's where people have started trading more in options, less in equities. To promote equities sort of investments, we have requested government to also reduce STT on equities and probably increase on the option side so that there is some sort of a balance. Otherwise, we are becoming hugely speculative. And third thing, we have requested RBI, Reserve Bank of India, to allow small investors to hold the government bonds in depositories very easily so that they get a continual income stream, because most of us, especially in India, we don't like our hard-earned money lost. And that's why our trust in market comes down if there is huge volatility. But if it's government bond, it's completely risk-free. And if once risk-free bonds come into the market using government's platform, then actually more and more investors from current 2%, my understanding is we should be able to reach 25-30% by 2035 if we are able to give this kind of instruments. And once the users get used to the risk-free instruments using markets, then they can go more to the risky instruments like equity, riskier instruments like the preference shares or debenture or the derivatives, and then commodities and so on and so forth. And that's what we need to be actually focusing on, that is promoting investments.
No doubt. And Ashish, I remember talking to you the last year itself, where at the same venue itself, we were discussing as to how technology is going to be an important strategy as far as BSE is concerned. We're already aware of the fact that the way the push for derivatives has been a success for BSE as well. You've accomplished quite a bit of a volume increase in the last couple of quarters as well, as far as the F&O segment is concerned. More importantly now, with a lot of new products like the HFT gaining more traction among some of the smaller investors as well, what are your plans when we talk about technology? How are some of your members going to benefit? What's probably in store when we talk about technology upgradation and some of the changes there?
We have basically become the fastest section in the world with 6 microseconds response time. In 1 second, there are a million microseconds, 10 lakh microseconds, and we give you a response at that microsecond level. Our nearest fast exchange in the world is Singapore Stock Exchange, which is around 60 microseconds, 10 times slower than us. And so that response time, when it improves, it ends up giving a lot of benefits to all the users, including the retail investors. Because if you trade on a slower exchange, then you get information slower, you are able to execute slower, and somebody ends up taking better price. So more and more investors are coming to BSE because it's become the fastest exchange. From being very slow, it has suddenly become the fastest in the world. And that will take some time to percolate in the minds of the users. But we are also increasing the liquidity using algorithm trading. We have promoted algorithm trading on BSE in a big way. Today, you won't be surprised that almost more than 70 to 80% of the total transactions in India are actually coming from algorithms. And more than almost 95-97% of the orders are coming from algorithms. And that is actually improving liquidity. And BSE is working big time with the algorithm users to ensure that fairly everyone gets the same access, but the retail investors are able to get more liquidity. So and of course we are also adding mobile facilities. Today our application mobile is used by more than 550,000 users, but I'm sure over next 1 or 2 years it will probably go up 10 times. And that's what we have provided this mobile trading, mobile watching facilities on BSE India. If you are Android user or even iOS user, you can actually download the application, and it's basically complete technology all around. We also provide mutual fund framework. You can invest in mutual fund using your mobile on BSE and so on and so forth.
Well, Ashish has always been known in the industry as the wizard in the tech space when it comes to the exchanges. Ashish, you've seen many a bell and gong ringing, be it listings, fabulous listings and substantial listing. The question that many shareholders and investors have, when do we see you ringing the bell for the BSE IPO?
We are waiting for the approval from SEBI. We have applied in January 1, 2013. So now around 3 years to get over. And we hope that once SEBI is comfortable, we will get the approvals to list BSE. Of course, we can't list BSE on BSE itself. We'll have to list on other exchange. But hopefully it should happen soon.
All right, Mr. Chauhan, I know you've got a lot more people to meet and greet in that packed hall behind you at the BSE. Ashish Chauhan, a very happy Diwali to you and everybody at the Bombay Stock Exchange, and a prosperous Samvat 2072.
All right, so that's some views coming in from Ashishkumar Chauhan there of BSE as to what's probably in store going forward from here. But Mr. Chauhan, before we wind down our conversation, I have to